There was a particular kind of Saturday afternoon that only existed in Britain. The lawnmower starting on the third pull, the smell of cut grass and creosote fence panels baking in the sun, a hosepipe ban that everyone ignored, runner beans up a bamboo frame, a patch of lawn that was never quite level, a shed at the bottom that held everything that had nowhere else to go. The back garden was not a luxury, it was the reason people put up with everything else. The terraced house, the narrow hallway, the small rooms. You had outside space, it was yours. Since 2000, Britain has lost garden space equivalent to 2.5 times the size of Greater London. Not to flood, not to fire, to planning permission, to concrete, to developers who found that a back garden was the cheapest land in Britain to build on, and the people who lost it were not asked. In the wake of the Second World War, Britain rebuilt its cities under a new national consensus. Every family deserved a home, and every home deserved a piece of the earth. The Town and Country Planning Act of 1947 created the modern planning system, defining the suburban garden as a basic expected feature for modest houses. Across the outer edges of London, in counties like Middlesex and Hertfordshire, the Metroland developments popularised the dream of a semi-detached house with a private plot at the rear. By 1961, this design philosophy became official policy for social housing. The Parker-Morris Committee published its landmark report, Homes for Today and Tomorrow, which introduced mandatory requirements for external amenity space. Under these standards, a 3-bedroom council home had to provide at least 30 square metres of private garden area. These policies treated the back garden as a standard component of domestic architecture, a baseline feature rather than a premium upgrade. A private patch of soil was considered just as essential to a family's well-being as indoor plumbing or electricity, anchoring the garden directly into the foundations of post-war British life. During the Second World War, the domestic plot was an engine of survival, with wartime allotments peaking at 1.4 million plots across the country. But as Britain rebuilt, these communal growing spaces declined sharply, dropping to 330,000 by 1970. As shared plots vanished, the practice of cultivation retreated behind the closed gates of the private back garden. In the industrial north, this shift was immediate and personal. In the tight terrace yards of Sheffield and Bradford, families transformed small, paved spaces into practical, multi-generational yards. Here, children played alongside rows of homegrown vegetables and fruit trees, turning narrow plots of land into expressions of family identity and self-reliance. This patch of ground functioned as a social leveller. For working-class families, owning even a few square meters of soil offered a rare measure of stability and independence. It was a space entirely under their own control, free from the oversight of landlords or employers. To have a back garden was to have a stake in the land, anchoring a family's daily life in a private, green world of their own making. For decades, British residential gardens enjoyed the same planning protections as open countryside, classified under the law as greenfield land. But a bureaucratic pen stroke altered their status. Gordon Brown's government, seeking to hit housing targets, reclassified private gardens as previously developed land in the 2010 planning framework. This technical shift stripped gardens of their greenfield status, placing them in the same category as derelict factories and disused railway sidings. Suddenly, local councils lost their automatic right to refuse development on these plots. Infill schemes found a direct, streamlined path through the planning system under permitted development logic, transforming the backyard from a protected domestic haven into a valuable planning asset. Estimates from the English Housing Survey and the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors reveal that between 2001 and 2011, developers built over 4.4 million square metres of private garden land across England. Suburban garden land is highly attractive to developers because it sits directly within established residential streets. Building in a backyard avoids the heavy costs of laying new roads, extending water mains, or installing fresh utility grids. Since the basic infrastructure is already in place, the cost per plot is significantly lower than developing on the greenfield fringe of a town. This economic reality popularized the tactic known as garden grabbing. An investor purchases a property with a generous rear plot, retains or replaces the front house, and builds new dwellings on the newly divided land behind it. Between 2005 and 2015, some London boroughs saw 1 in 5 new homes built on these subdivided plots. At the same time, smaller domestic extensions permitted under standard development rights chip away at backyards without requiring a full planning application. Once a garden is treated as buildable land rather than a private amenity, its financial value surges. The patch of grass that once represented a family's leisure is revalued as an asset. Away from housing developments, a quiet change is occurring within existing property boundaries. Paving, decking, and driveways do not add new homes, but they strip away soft, living earth just as permanently. Front gardens are systematically cleared for vehicle parking and low-maintenance hardstanding. According to the Royal Horticultural Society and Green Space Information for Greater London, the capital lost 3.2 million square metres of front garden to hard surfaces between 1998 and 2008. A regulation in 2008 attempted to halt this, requiring planning permission for any impermeable surface larger than 5 square metres, yet enforcement remains virtually non-existent. The Environment Agency warns that sealing these soils directly drives higher, faster urban flood peaks. By 2023, synthetic turf became a common substitute for living lawns. This plastic alternative removes natural drainage, supports no biodiversity, absorbs no carbon, and is discarded into landfills after roughly 15 years. The environmental cost of these changes extends far past individual fence lines, reshaping the climate of entire cities. While living grass and foliage actively cool the air through absorption and evaporation, hard surfaces store and radiate heat. This physical shift has contributed to a 1.5-degree rise in urban temperatures across British towns between 1960 and 2020, according to Met Office measurements. This loss of vegetation dismantles an interconnected ecological network. The state of nature. 2023 report states that British gardens collectively cover more land than all designated nature reserves in England combined. As this private green canopy shrinks, populations of swifts and house sparrows have fallen by more than 60% since 1980. This pressure is compounded by a broader housing trend, as developers replace houses with flatted developments that lack private external amenity space as standard. The disappearing garden is a systemic urban crisis. Today, the baseline for new housing has altered. Rightmove and CPRE data show the average new-build garden has shrunk to just 188 square metres, compared to 456 square metres in the 1970s. Many new homes now offer no private garden at all. Instead, developers market Juliet balconies as outdoor space and sell low-maintenance gardens that are actually just hard-surfaced rectangles. Shared amenity areas in modern blocks are frequently locked, neglected, or reduced during the final build. At the same time, public green space promised in early plans is routinely negotiated away on viability grounds. The private back garden is no longer an expected standard of British life, but a premium luxury. If this story interested you, there is a video about what happened to the British allotment. Subscribe to support the channel. Today, a shrinking garden is more than a design shift. It is a permanent retreat from nature. We are quietly trading our ecological heritage for paved convenience. If this story interested you, there is a video right here about what happened to the British allotment. Subscribe to support the channel.